My wife and I were exchanging rings at our wedding when my brother suddenly barged into the scene without an inch of clothing. Even though my brother thinks I'm cheap for cutting up all my clothes, since I promised my brother, I'm coming to see you get married anyway. My wife blamed me for poking my brother where it hurt, and sent me to Serpent Haven, my greatest fear, as punishment. I was transformed into a serpent for the enjoyment of people with special fetishes. 6 months later my wife came to pick me up and bring me home. And the whole family raved about how docile and reticent I was. Until I caught a mouse and excitedly devoured it, and my wife became furious. Serpent Haven is no different from Arcadia except for the many docile non-venomous snakes. It's not just for you to come over to self-refresh for 6 months. Why are you so angry with me? At that moment strong female biological markers appeared. I instantly overwhelming desire. My eyes unconsciously turned into vertical pupils. My body twisted into an extreme arc and wrapped around the python's cold body. Wife Victoria Sinclair was so loud that she brought all her family and friends when she came to pick me up on Serpent Haven in her private cruise ship. I was changed into a fresh beach suit and appeared in front of all the gawking eyes. Victoria Sinclair said in a serious and calm voice, "Ethan Carter, have you changed your mind in these 6 months on the island? I hope you want cross-scening when you go back. And don't let me down on you again." I spat out my tongue, curiously exploring the Victoria Sinclair in front of me with a forked tongue. Finding it to be a very strange and uninteresting flavor, Victoria Sinclair stared at my thin lips for a slight moment, then nodded in satisfaction. "I've never seen such a juvenile side of you before. And it seems that this pretty island has really managed to cleanse your dirty, vicious mind. I've got a party ready for you on the cruise ship to welcome you back into the family." Victoria Sinclair took my hand and was going to personally pick me up and walk me onto the luxurious private cruise ship. However, it only touches my skin before she almost lets go. "Why is your body so cold when the sun is so high on the island?" Victoria Sinclair's brow furrowed. "This body temperature doesn't even resemble a living person. Are you sick?" Victoria Sinclair said too many words. I couldn't understand her instructions at all. Just as I was staring at her in a daze, Liam Bennett nervously stepped forward. My brother has spent half a year on the island, and has long since adapted to the sun here. So of course his body temperature is different from ours. The moment I saw Liam Bennett, alarm bells went off in my head and my blood instantly froze. Hiss, hiss. I kept backing away, a warning sound coming from my throat. In the crowd's surprised and strange gaze, Liam Bennett readied backward a few steps. "Brother, I didn't realize that after half a year of absence you still loathe me so much. And even want to let me die." Victoria Sinclair, a handful of shielded Liam Bennett behind her, and glared at me. "Ethan Carter, I thought you had learned your lesson, but I didn't expect you to be back in your original form so soon." Although Xining is from the Appalachian foothills and is only an adopted son sponsored by the Jiang family. But in terms of good character, he's better than you've ever been. With Victoria Sinclair's words, I instantly became social pariah. Even my own parents hated me. Qiao Nan. The entire Jiang family will be yours in the future. Xining only needs a mouthful of rice to eat. Why are you so narrow-minded and unable to tolerate others? This banquet, originally organized for me, became a public hall to accuse me of my crimes. I felt the malice from all sides and crawled under the table in fear. "Ethan Carter, you're so outlawed that you're scared like this. Who are you pretending to be?" Victoria Sinclair puts her palms on my shoulders and tries to grab me out from under the table. Instead, she yanked off an entire patch of skin on my back that hadn't finished fading. I rubbed my back against the floor in agony and ducked deeper into the table. Victoria Sinclair's pupils plummeted as if struck by lightning. She defiantly got down on the floor and locked eyes with me, and opened her mouth as if she had been strangled. "Jonan, what happened to you? Why did you lose such a big piece of skin? Is something wrong?" Liam Bennett immediately choked and snatched his voice. "The island is full of sunshine all year round, and my brother's pampered skin is white and tender. So he must have gotten sunburned and peeled off his skin." It's all my fault. If it wasn't because of me, sister-in-law wouldn't have been so angry that she sent brother to the island. Zining, it's not your fault. Mom painfully took Liam Bennett into her arms. Even though Chiao Nan is my own son, I can't in good conscience take sides with him. He's already in his 20s. Won't he take shelter from the sun when it's very hot? I think he just knows that we're coming to the island to pick him up soon. And intentionally went to the sun to act out the manipulative ploy. As Mom's words fell, Victoria Sinclair instantly blushed. Then, despite my struggles, she grabbed my ankles and dragged me hard out from under the table. My freshly faded back was painfully bloody from the ground rubbing against it. Victoria Sinclair, however, turned a blind eye and only looked at me with a cold look and admonished me. Ethan Carter, is this your manipulative ploy? It turns out that you're not only vicious to others, but you're also so cruel to yourself, compared to all those vicious acts you did to Zining over the years, and forcing him to come to our wedding naked. I just sent you to an island to enjoy nature for half a year. That's not even a punishment. I ignored Victoria Sinclair as my weakened body from blood loss forced me to eat as soon as possible. At that moment a large rat ran out of the cruise ship's galley, scaring everyone by hugging them and jumping up and down. And I pounced on it with both eyes wide open. As Victoria Sinclair and Mom and Dad looked on in amazement, I bit down on the rat and then swallowed it alive with great satisfaction. "Ah!" Mom screamed in agony. "Is this still my son? How is it that after living in isolation in Serpent Haven for half a year, he doesn't even have the most basic humanity left?" Victoria Sinclair's entire body was almost unsteady on its feet. "Ethan Carter, I know you're most afraid of snakes. But Serpent Haven has a beautiful landscape full of docile non-venomous snakes. Even if you were as angry with me as you are, you can't trash yourself by engaging in so much disgusting and hurtful behavior." No sooner had he spoken than Liam Bennett was on his knees crying and slapping himself furiously. "If it wasn't for me, my brother wouldn't be in this state today. You take my brother back. I'm going to spend the rest of my life on Serpent Haven to take the heat off my brother and atone for my sins." Mom's crying came to an abrupt end and she pointed at me and cursed. "Ethan Carter, why are you such a bitch? In order to force Zining away you even treat yourself like an animal. You don't even have the most basic bottom line of being a human being." Victoria Sinclair's eyes were like ink, staring straight at me. She suddenly let out a light laugh that sent chills down my back. "Ethan Carter, don't you like to pretend to be a snake? Then I'll catch some snakes to have a good time with you." Victoria Sinclair snapped her two fingers together and immediately someone grabbed a bag of colorful snakes and threw them in front of me. "Ethan Carter, I know you're terrified of snakes. Even the sight of a snake-shaped rope would scare you so much that you wouldn't be able to move." She stared at me coldly, a transporting light shining in her eyes. "You will now immediately admit your fault to Zining and promise in public that you will never embarrass him again. Otherwise, they'll release all the snakes in the bag and let you experience what it's like to dance with snakes." Seeing my delayed response, a trace of intolerance flashed in Victoria Sinclair's eyes, and then faded slightly. "Put him in the karaoke room with the snake, and let him out when he admits his mistake and begs for mercy." Victoria Sinclair threw me into the glass room with the bag full of snakes, one after the other. Then wrapped her arms around her chest and chestily stood guard in the doorway waiting for me to scream and bow my head. At one time I was indeed afraid of snakes. Even though my body had been transformed little by little into a snake man by those people in the Serpent Haven Institute, I still shivered when I saw snakes. But then the people in the Institute, in order to domesticate me and make me completely forget that I was a human, threw me into the supentarium with thousands of snakes, where there was no food except snakes. If you want to keep from dying of thirst and hunger, you have to eat each other as the weak and the strong. After living in the supentarium for 2 months, snakes had long since ceased to be animals to be feared in my eyes, but delicious food. Victoria Sinclair's staggering steps were reflected in the glass as I opened my mouth to bite into a green snake. "Ethan Carter, are you crazy? What are you doing?" Victoria Sinclair doesn't realize that one mouse doesn't fill my stomach. And it was the bag of colorful snakes she sent me that was the best gift and tonic to give me. In the eyes of Victoria Sinclair and Mom and Dad. I raised my head high and swallowed the wriggling snake into my mouth. Victoria Sinclair rushed into the karaoke room with red eyes, ripped the snake out of my hand and threw it to the side, and then hugged me tightly. Forget it, Chownan. Don't push yourself so hard. Well, stop. Okay. I don't know why she took away my food. But in order to pull in research funds, the people at the institute made me serve people with special fetishes for their pleasure after transforming me into a snake man. I knew that the only way to get food to fill my stomach was to make the rich woman happy. So I cracked my tongue in half and crouched obediently at Victoria Sinclair. Her eyes flashed with disbelief and her voice was muffled and deep. Ethan Carter, what exactly did you learn in the first half of Serpent Haven? Do you even remember being the youngest member of the Jiang family? Victoria Sinclair grabbed my hand violently, her face filled with pain. You were as radiant and unattainable as the sun when you played the piano. How can you do something as lowly as pleasing a woman with these hands that have won a Carnegie Hall recognition? Her bones were so hard that they turned white, and I uncertainly drew back the hand that Victoria Sinclair had squeezed so painfully. I was sent by her to this Serpent Haven to be transformed not only physically into what others preferred, but even my spirit was domesticated into a snake. These hands, this mouth, and every part of my body have long since done their dirty work in order to survive. But now, she blames me for being cheap. Under my unblinking gaze, Victoria Sinclair didn't even have the courage to look me in the eye. She pursed her lips hard. Find out for me immediately what happened to my husband in Serpent Haven these 6 months. During the waiting period, Victoria Sinclair embraced me tenderly and even wrapped my hands in her palms. Little did she know that the blood in my entire body had been replaced and had long since turned into a reptilian physiology that could not be muffled no matter what she did. Half an hour later, 2 men came to us pressed against the housekeeper who had taken care of me. You are solely responsible for my husband's living and living. Now shouldn't you give me an explanation? It's only been half a year since I've seen him. How did he turn into this inhuman, snake-like figure? Under Victoria Sinclair's cold voice forced questioning, the housekeeper's body trembled. Because ever since I boarded Serpent Haven, he was bribed by Liam Bennett to send me to the institute. Mr. Shin, forgive me. I really can't say anything. The butler folded his hands and kept kneeling and kowtowing. I've taken someone's money. If I tell you, I'll die. Victoria Sinclair was so nervous that she even stopped breathing. With just a single eye gesture. The butler was scared by the bodyguard and begged for forgiveness. Yes, sir. He couldn't stand the loneliness of the island and got mixed up with the serpent handler here. Ever since they lived together, Mr.'s demeanor has become more and more eccentric. To prove what he said, the butler took out his cell phone to show Victoria Sinclair the video he had recorded. At the time, I still had a shred of humanity left in me and knew that the wedding ring on my hand was something important to me. And in order to get my wedding ring back, I tossed myself around at the behest of the serpent handler just to please her. In the video, Serpent Handler was so satisfied with me that she laughed out loud. Worthy of being a man from the city, this skin plays like coiled jade. Especially this body. Now old mom has no heart to do anything else all day but play with you. Victoria Sinclair's face was expressionless, but the murderous intent and pained color raging in her eyes was alarming. Are you so horny from your time on the island that you can't even lay your hands on a dried-up, ugly old woman, Ethan Carter? Are you just naturally horny and cheap, or are you out to get back at me? I shuddered at Victoria Sinclair's continuous questioning. Because I suddenly felt strong female biological markers, instantly overwhelming desire, and my eyes unconsciously turned into vertical pupils. And that female was also attracted by my biological markers and was gradually approaching. I recklessly rushed to the deck and plunged into the sea. Ethan Carter, you're not allowed to die. Jonan, don't. From the deck came the terrified and agonized voices of Victoria Sinclair and Mom and Dad. At that moment, as the horrified crowd watched, my body sank several times in the sea. Then twisting into extreme arcs, it wrapped around the python's cold body. Just as the python and I were intertwined, a fish spear with a curved hook shot out, violently penetrating the python's head. The lust in my heart hadn't dissipated yet, and I watched in bewilderment as the female python completely lost its life and sank into the sea without even having a chance to struggle. A loud plop sound of falling water came from behind me. Before I could react, my body was swept into a warm embrace. It was as if Victoria Sinclair was trying to rub me into her bones and blood. Qiaonan. So close. Almost am going to lose you. Feeling the cold liquid dripping down on my neck, I raised my eyes and saw that Victoria Sinclair's reddened eyes kept having teardrops smashing down one by one. It's my fault. I shouldn't have sent you up to Serpent Haven. She hugged me tightly. I was so stupid to send you up to Serpent Haven when I knew you were afraid of snakes. At the time, I was so enraged that I thought Serpent Haven was in Arcadia. And sending you up here would be both a self-reflection and a small punishment, even though I never opened my mouth to say a word from start to finish. Victoria Sinclair chattered to herself. With all the snakes around here, you must have been psychologically scared out of your mind. Otherwise, how could you possibly look at such an ugly and dirty old woman? You're the one who was too scared, and as a result, I wasn't by your side. You were looking for security and belonging. That's why you were blinded by that serpent handler and also associated yourself as a snake too through strong mental suggestion. Listening to Victoria Sinclair's words, the mom and dad on the deck hugged and cried. Jonan, I'm sorry. It's Mom and Dad who are late. If we hadn't been so careless and had come over to check on you earlier, maybe you wouldn't have turned out like this today. Jonan, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Victoria Sinclair choked on her sobs. I don't care what has happened to you in the past. I'll be with you wherever you go from now on. Please don't think about it. Please forgive me. You're my husband. I'll be unfailingly devoted to you for the rest of my life. Jonan, give me another chance to love you again. Okay. Liam Bennett could no longer hold back under Victoria Sinclair's heartfelt confession. He pulled out a smile in a far-fetched manner, grabbed a swimming ring and threw it into the sea. Sister-in-law, the sea is too cold, and I don't know if there will still be snakes. If there's anything, you can bring your brother to the boat first. Yes. You guys get on the boat first. Mom and Dad pushed through the crowd and walked to the escalator to greet me. Qiaonan, come to Mom and Dad, and in the face of their enthusiasm, my eyes were full of vigilance, unimpressed. My mom and dad's eyes were full of hurt, and they couldn't help but burst into tears. Qiaonan, we are Dad and Mom. Do you not recognize Mom and Dad? Or are you blaming us in your heart? Seeing me pursing my lips and hesitating to speak, Victoria Sinclair held me tenderly in her arms. Mom and Dad, you guys take it easy for now. Qiaonan must have been scared when she jumped into the sea just now and was entangled by the python. They'll take Jonan to take a bath first. And we'll talk about anything when he's in a better condition. The large bathtub was filled with warm water. Victoria Sinclair pulled me in step by step. But as soon as I came into contact with the higher temperature of the water, I felt uncomfortable all over. So subconsciously wrapped around her body, unwilling to go back into the water. Jonan, be a good girl. You won't be so tired after a hot bath to relax. Victoria Sinclair softly coaxed me. And as I have long been light on women, I instantly heard the restraint and lust in her tone. So I also released biological markers, indicating that I would serve her obediently. Victoria Sinclair suddenly shuddered. Her hands clasped my shoulders with force, and her eyes stared at my pupils in death. Jonan, why did your eyes become green vertical pupils? Through her dark eyes, I saw my snake-like demonic pupils reflected inside. Frame after frame of memories suddenly flashed through my mind, messy but barely pieced together. It was Victoria Sinclair's birthday. and I had gone to great lengths to coax Serpent Handler to be happy and get the cell phone from her. I secretly dialed Victoria Sinclair's number, trying to beg her to save me. But when I thought about the inhumanity of so many days, I was afraid that she would dislike me, and I didn't even know where to start. Emblem. Happy birthday. I stammered before I opened my mouth to say the first sentence, when Victoria Sinclair interrupted impatiently. What's the point of calling me? You've only been here a month and you can't take it anymore. I had my word a long time ago that I would send you to Serpent Haven for 6 months of reflection before I could pick you up. In order to do Xening justice, there's no way I'm going to go back on my word. Instead of going through all the trouble of trying to figure out how to coax me, why don't you think about where you went wrong? Without waiting for me to open my mouth to say another word, Victoria Sinclair simply hung up the phone and my chance of survival. I was trembling with fear and could only force myself to dial her number again. But Victoria Sinclair simply blacked out the number. And the Institute had signals all over Serpent Haven. And they tapped my phone and learned about my sneaky attempt to call Victoria Sinclair for help. So they took me back to the Institute, and to punish me they cut out my tongue without anesthesia. And after it was split in half and turned into a forked tongue, I was never able to speak a word again. It was this body modification that made the group of lunatics in the research lab who experienced the fun completely lose their humanity. They originally only extracted my blood to do genetic research on humans and snakes. Later on, not only did they cut out my tongue, they also remodeled my iris so that I would turn into a snake pupil when I moved. For half a year, they got together and had one idea a day to completely turn me into the human snake monster I am today. Then they threw me into the supentarium to domesticate my humanity, forcing me to give up all the dignity of a human being, forgetting all the propriety, righteousness and shame in order to survive. At this moment, recalling every bit of the past when I was transformed, I couldn't control my body from trembling. My throat once again issued the warning of self-preservation when facing danger. Hiss, hiss. It was also at this moment that Victoria Sinclair finally discovered my tongue that split on both sides. Her emotions fell apart in an instant, and teardrops once again rolled down into the bath one by one. Jonan, why did your tongue become like this? What on earth have you been through in the 6 months you've been here? Even though I had regained some memory under the stimulation of Victoria Sinclair and Mom and Dad, I had long since lost the ability to speak, and would never be able to answer her words. Victoria Sinclair scrambled to wrap me in her bathrobe, and hissed to her bodyguard, "Go to the nearest hospital. Get Jonan a doctor now." The captain, though unsure of what was happening, immediately rushed into the cockpit at Victoria Sinclair's urgent order. "I know an island hospital around here. They'll take you there now." An hour later, Victoria Sinclair took me to the island hospital for a physical examination. However, when I saw the familiar faces in white coats, I was instantly terrified to the core, and my only sanity fell apart in an instant. I struggled violently, refusing to approach the hospital, and even more so, resisting the approach of those researchers wearing doctors' white coats. Victoria Sinclair keenly sensed that something was wrong with me, and immediately narrowed her eyes dangerously and asked the researchers, "Who the hell are you people?" Under Victoria Sinclair's sharp gaze, the researchers instantly stiffened, cold sweat breaking out on their foreheads. Liam Bennett immediately stepped forward. "Sister-in-law, the island hospital is still such a long way away from Serpent Haven's ship, so my brother must not have seen these doctors before. Don't be paranoid for now. Let the doctors examine brother's body most importantly." Mom also chimed in at this point. "Xening is right. This child, Qiaonan, has been petulant since he was a child. He's most afraid of going to the hospital to see a doctor, and he's also most afraid of taking medicine and getting injections. Qiaonan, Mom knows that your body and heart are not feeling well. But now is not the time to be capricious. You first behave yourself and see the doctor. If there's anything at all, let's talk about it slowly as a family behind closed doors when we get home, okay?" Listening to Mom's soft comforting voice to me, Victoria Sinclair's tight jaw softened a few points. By the looks of it, it was fully believing Mom and Liam Bennett's words. Jonan, be a good girl and well, just do some simple body checks. If it's nothing serious, I definitely won't force you to take medicine and injections. I will definitely protect you in the future. So trust me one more time. Okay. Victoria Sinclair pulled me and headed inside, but several researchers stopped her with a serious face. Sorry. Our hospital has rules. I'm afraid it's not very convenient for family members to accompany the patient during the examination. Upon hearing this, Victoria Sinclair gave me a deep look. After hesitating for a split second, she still chose to hand me over to the researchers. Then my husband will trouble you. His body is very wrong. It even seems like some kind of mutation has occurred. Please assess his physical condition immediately, and if his physical condition allows for a transfer, I will immediately contact a helicopter to take my husband to the best hospital in the world. I tugged at Victoria Sinclair's sleeve, begging her not to let the researchers take me away. But she broke my fingers one by one. Jonan, be good. They'll take you away after the tests. The researcher took me gently on the surface and pushed me into the consultation room. However, when the door of the consultation room closed, they roughly slammed me on the floor and completely changed their faces. Damn, that animal Liam Bennett lied to us. I didn't realize this Ethan Carter was Victoria Sinclair's husband. She's one of the richest people in the country. In case this matter of transforming her husband is exposed, the few of us won't want to live. A few researchers looked at each other, and a ruthlessness that would not stop until the end surfaced in their eyes coincidentally. If we let Ethan Carter leave here alive, all the research we've done on him will be exposed. They made up their minds almost immediately, taking out a huge syringe and slowly approaching towards me. This drug is similar to sulfur compound. It's a great tonic for people but highly poisonous to snakes. So you won't be able to find out anything even if you die. Don't blame us for being cruel to take your life. Blame your good brother Liam Bennett. If he didn't spend $10 million for us to take you in for research, we would have only dared to play around with snakes. We wouldn't have dared to take a living person for research. The researcher smiled sorrowfully, then raised the syringe and aimed it at my temple. Just as the needle pierced my skin, the door of the clinic was suddenly kicked open with a hard kick, faced with Victoria Sinclair, whose face was grim and whose eyes were filled with murderous intent. The two researchers were so scared that they dropped their syringes on the floor, and the oddly colored green liquid inside dripped all over the place. However, they were still talking tough. You're here, Mr. Shen. Your husband is in a bad situation. I'm afraid his life is in danger. We are preparing to give him treatment, but it may not be possible to salvage him. Listening to the researcher's far-fetched lie, the corner of Victoria Sinclair's mouth hooked up into a bizarre arc. Are you preparing to treat my husband? Or are you preparing to murder my husband? Under the researcher's pale, horrified gaze, Victoria Sinclair pointed to the extra pendant around my neck. I have long wanted to investigate what happened to my husband, so I installed an invisible camera on him. I'm sorry, Mr. Shen. I'm sorry, sir. The two researchers knelt down in front of us and kept kowtowing, not stopping until blood was pouring from their foreheads, no longer having that lofty air of contempt for life that they had when they first took me for research. It's all because of Liam Bennett. He knew we were doing live snake research on the island and were short on research funds. So he gave us $10 million to take his brother for research, and said Ethan Carter no longer had any family at home, so no one would care even if he died. Dad yanked the hair on the back of Liam Bennett's head and slapped her in the face. You animal, you white-eyed wolf. If we hadn't been so kind as to sponsor you out of the Appalachian foothills, you'd be wasting away in there for the rest of your life. We gave you a new life, and this is how you repay us. Not only did you destroy our only son, but you cursed our whole family to death. Mom was even more enraged. her hands fiercely strangling Liam Bennett's neck. "You are a beast with a face. Every day in front of us, you slandered Xiaonan for hurting you. Then make us feel guilty about you, forcing us to centrifuge with our own son. You purposely went naked to ruin Xiaonan's wedding. And you also cheated $10 million in moral damages from me. I wanted to use this money as a base for you to marry and have children in the future. But instead you took my money and almost bought my son's life." Liam Bennett couldn't even catch his breath. Yet he was still shedding tears and weaseling. "No, I didn't. Sister-in-law, Mom and Dad. I don't know anything. I didn't do anything. I don't know any of these people, and I don't know why they're helping my brother to slander me." Victoria Sinclair coldly hooked up the corner of her lips. "You mean, these researchers were all bought and paid for by Xiaonan and deliberately acted manipulative ploy to frame you?" At that, Liam Bennett's eyes turned red. "Sister-in-law, I don't mean that. Even if it's no longer the case, I won't suspect my own brother. Actually, I didn't suspect what my brother was going through. After all, we could all see that something bad had happened to him. It's just that these researchers are making empty slurs against me in order to evade their responsibilities. You guys mustn't fall for their tricks, whether it's a slander or not. We'll know when we check the accounts." Victoria Sinclair's icy eyes fell on Liam Bennett's face, not missing a single expression from him. After all, $10 million to move the accounts is not a small amount. Liam Bennett's pupils shook, then spoke with difficulty. "Sister-in-law is right. They'll go to the cruise ship to get my cell phone and call the bank for proof." Just as he left on the front foot, Victoria Sinclair's bodyguard ran over, panting on the back foot. "Mr. Shen." Liam Bennett fled in a weak heart. "Let him run." Victoria Sinclair's tone was ice-cold without a trace of arc. "It just so happens that I planned to prepare a big gift for him at sea." 3 days later, Victoria Sinclair and Mom and Dad accompanied me to the world's top hospital for the most comprehensive physical examination. The doctors read all the results and then gathered for a full 3-hour-plus meeting before finally informing us to go in with heavy faces. "Mr. Jiang's physical condition is very bad. Not only has his body been transformed by inhuman means, there is no longer a single drop of blood belonging to a human being in his body, and he simply can't keep his organs functioning for too long." After hearing this, Mom and Dad hugged each other and cried in pain. "Xiaonan, it was Mom and Dad who caused you harm. If we hadn't brought Liam Bennett back out of a moment of compassion, you would have a happy family today, and wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable situation." Victoria Sinclair's eyes were already red, but she forced her tears back in public. "Then, doctor, is it true that there is not the slightest possibility for my husband to return to normal?" All the doctors shook their heads and sighed as they listened. "You still don't understand what we mean. Now let's not talk about returning to normal. Your husband's physical condition. Even living for 1 more year is a luxury. Forcibly transforming a human body into a snake's body is originally against the laws of nature. What's more, their research technology isn't perfect. Your husband is now like a toy that consumes batteries. When the batteries run out, it will die forever." Despite not being able to accept the reality anymore, Victoria Sinclair opened her mouth with trembling lips and asked, "Then how long does my husband have left to live?" The doctors looked at each other. "With our current scientific and technological means, there is no way to give you any duration or guarantee. We are already the best hospital in the world here, and even we are at our wits' end. So it's safe to say that it's impossible for any hospital to admit you for treatment. Our advice is to take your husband out for a walk and enjoy his last moments in his limited and short life." At that, Victoria Sinclair stood up with a prancing sound. Ignoring the shouts of my mom and dad and the doctors, she turned around with me and walked away. No one knew where she was going or what Victoria Sinclair wanted to do. Until the cruise ship started again and Victoria Sinclair took me back to the Serpent Haven Research Institute. To my surprise, the research here was still going on. But the researchers had all changed. The original researchers have become research subjects. And Liam Bennett, who escaped and was recaptured, has been put in a glass isolation room. His features had been changed into a snake, his nostrils had been transferred to his forehead, and his legs had been sewn together like a short, thick snake's tail, which looked very strange. And as soon as Liam Bennett saw me, he pounced with excitement. The glass isolation room was well soundproofed, but I could still read her words through his mouth. Liam Bennett was begging me. He said, "Brother, please have mercy and kill me," and I just blandly averted my face, for I was neither his brother nor could I possibly show him the slightest kindness. Because I had long been a reptilian physiology who had lost all feelings for my parents and wife, even if they died in front of me, my heart would not fluctuate even a little bit, let alone Liam Bennett. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, those few researchers who had once used me for research had also been no longer in human form, and had been thrown into the supentarium. The harm they had inflicted on me was now returned 100-fold. Victoria Sinclair spoke faintly. When their bodies can't hold out any longer, they will be sent to the Anaconda as rations. After coming out of the research lab, Victoria Sinclair took me back to the cruise ship. She hugged me tightly and led me on the deck to look at the sea. "Jonan, I've pretty much avenged everything on you. Are you still satisfied with what happened to those institutes and Liam Bennett?" I spat out my letters and stared at the moon and the sky, feeling sleepy. Watching my upper and lower eyelids droop, Victoria Sinclair's voice was soft and choked. "Jonan, even though we're in a dynastic union, I've loved you since the first time we met. Loved the way you played the piano. Loved your heavenly voice when you sang. It was stupid of me to think that you would change for the better after you came back from your introspection on Serpent Haven. And then we'd have a good life and lots of kids." Little did I realize that it was all Liam Bennett's design and plot. Victoria Sinclair buried her head in my neck and sobbed uncontrollably. "I should have known better. Obviously, I liked you from the first moment I saw you. I thought you had a cleanliness about you that was untouched by the world. But then, how was I blinded by Liam Bennett and personally pushed you into the mire and hell? Jonan, actually am the one you should hate the most, right? If I didn't send you to Serpent Haven, then Liam Bennett wouldn't have been able to take advantage of it and none of this would have happened." All this time Mom and Dad and Victoria Sinclair were confessing as much as they were eating 3 times a day. I've long since had my ears calloused, and I'm even more incapable of making the slightest ripple in my heart. What's more, I don't know why, but the temperature of my body was gradually rising. And I even felt the warmth of being a human being, which I hadn't felt for a long time. It was just that the more the temperature rose, the more sleepy I felt. "Jonan, get some sleep. Obviously your life was a gorgeous flower, but it bloomed for a short moment and then gave out, and it's all my fault," Victoria Sinclair murmured softly against my ear. "When those who have hurt you all go to hell, I will come to accompany you. Jonan, will you wait for me?" In the last moments of my life, it was as if I had become human again. Even if it was only for a brief minute, a moment of sanity and emotion was restored. I slowly sat up and slowly raised my hand to pull off the wedding ring on my ring finger as Victoria Sinclair looked on in ecstasy and grief. "Jonan, you remember all that, don't you? You remember that this is the wedding ring we made for each other with our own hands. It's important, isn't it?" Listening to Victoria Sinclair's excited cries, I nodded slowly but firmly. Then in the midst of her joyful cries, I slipped the wedding ring, which represented our love and marriage, back into Victoria Sinclair's palm. Victoria Sinclair cried and laughed, like a child who had done something wrong. She was both apprehensive and aggrieved. "Jonan, why did you give me back my wedding ring? Are you angry? Or do you want me to put it back on for you?" And without a word, I just slowly backed away, then turned around and jumped into the sea without any hesitation. Although I can't speak, I also want to use this decisive way to tell Victoria Sinclair. After 6 months of simmering in the sea island without seeing the sun, I will never wait for her again.